true to what you said on paper.
Well, welcome back to the second hour of At the Round Table with MAMLEO. I'm your host, Larry Ellison, in studio with my brother from another. The Rhodes Scholar is here. Good morning, Brother Rhodes.
Good morning.
And you can see some vacant seats there. Dr. Bradley is on a well-deserved vacation, and Helen is on vacation as well this week. So, like I said, folks, if you want to join us here, the call-in number is 617-282-0685. 617-282-0685 is the call-in number here at the station. Also, I want to thank our sponsor, The Money Store. For all your mortgage needs, get branch manager Cora Holbrook or call at area code 508-345-4726. That's 508-345-4726. And if you want to talk to Cora, she's going to be in studio next Saturday morning with us at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
We don't have anyone else.
I did not know that.
Oh,
okay.
No, do you have guests coming?
I don't think so.
Okay, because I didn't think so.
Yeah.
So Cora will be in. So if you have any questions about mortgages and the interest rates and all that's going on, she'll be here in person to answer your calls as well. Also want to thank Cruz Construction for their continued support, as well as MAMLEO's leadership and their members. And with that said, I want to thank Joyce Williams and Pam King for that enlightening conversation, and we look forward to continuing that conversation. Are they still on the line? Okay. Continuing that conversation with us. So we are pleased to welcome back, as part of almost like you have your own segment, the Flynn Corner. City Councilor Ed Flynn is in studio with us. You know, Councilor, we're talking off air. We want to thank you for coming back and your willingness to come in to this studio and engage our community, because we know you represent District 2, right?
That's correct.
You're Council District 2, which is Dorchester, South Boston.
It's South Boston, Chinatown, the South End, and a good portion of downtown Boston.
Well, we're fair to say, though, a lot of your constituents don't look like me.
That's right. That's correct.
Right. So the fact that you come in here talking about issues that ail us, that help affect us, it says something about who you are as a person and wanting to help where you see the need. Right. Unlike some of our at-large counselors, and I'm gonna throw a name out there, folks who hadn't doctored this, who's been invited to come in many times, is Councilor Santana, and others who are aligned with the mayor and just towing her bill of what she wants rather than understanding who they work for. But I guess they get away with it because their constituents don't hold them accountable in a meaningful way of saying, hey, look, you work for me. Because right now the city is experiencing some very difficult times financially, and I think a lot of that has to do with poor management. We've discussed that quite a bit. We're closing schools. Crime is up. Shootings. I saw you on the news the other day. It was a stabbing or in a beating in your area downtown. But you've been sounding the alarm about the issues on the Commons for quite some time. I want to start with the schools, because what we've seen, like the 4th of July, we had a very violent. I was away, but I heard about it. We had a very violent 6 hours, they said, and like 13 or 14 people were shot, several homicides in that span of time. What's the relationship with you as a counselor and our current police commissioner, Michael Cox, as it relates to all what's going on in the city?
Well, Larry, it's great to be with you and Mr. Rhodes and our friend Pastor Hobbs as well. I want to say thank you. And I have a great relationship with the rank and file police officers, and in the leadership, civil service leadership, the sergeants and the lieutenants and the captains. I speak to them almost every day. I don't have that same. I don't have that great relationship with the senior leadership at the Boston Police Department. I challenge the police department frequently on many issues. I don't just automatically agree with what the police department does just because the police department puts something out there. So I like to challenge the leadership and challenge them so we can do better. But the issue I challenge the senior leadership most with at the Boston Police and with the mayor's office as well is I think we have a system in place where police officers are consistently working 16 hours a day, 70, 80 hours a week. I think that's a system for failure. There's only so long you can have that type of system before it collapses. I think we're at that place. And Larry, that's why I put out a statement, at least to challenge residents of Boston. Should we have an honest discussion about a public safety support from the National Guard? Maybe we do, maybe we don't, but at least have the conversation so it forces us to discuss the lack of police we have in our city. We're probably down 500 police officers. Many shifts are going they're unavailable, and residents know this. We're not doing the community policing like we have in the past, and I would like our police commissioner to be more engaged in working with residents, working with city councilors on how we improve public safety, because we have significant public safety issues in Boston. I had a person on Boston Common beat to death on Boylston Street the other day. That person went from Boylston Street, MBTA stop on the Green Line walking, and he walked down towards Chinatown Gate. He allegedly hit someone over the head, a college kid, with a steel pole. Thankfully, the college kid is okay, but if he hit an elderly person over the head with a steel pole, that would have been 2 homicides in a period of hours. I am concerned about the lawlessness on the streets of Boston.
So, Councilor, I think you're being somewhat diplomatic in a sense, right? Of when you're talking about the lead, you have a pretty good working relationship with the rank and file of the police department, and that's commendable. But I think also at the top, right, you're an elected official, right? You are there not to just agree with the police department in every aspect. You've been very supportive of law enforcement. Mm-hmm. I know on issues that we have brought you, and when you thought they made sense, you supported them. If you didn't, we had disagreements. It didn't make us enemies. You're here today. And somehow the leadership feels like if anyone is in opposition of what the mayor is doing, they look at it as blame. You're not blaming, but you're elected to deal with the problems. So if you don't want to deal with the problems, then you shouldn't be in there. And if you don't want to deal with opposition, if you're the police commissioner, to people who are not on the same side as the person who appointed you, then you're in the wrong position. And then you should make that aware to the mayor that you're not just, it doesn't help you to do your job if you can't work with all of the elected officials in some respectable way where you just put distance. Because sadly, I know exactly what you're talking about, because if you are pointing out deficiencies, they see it as you blaming them, right? And this is not blame, because actually usually the person that's pointing it out is most likely going to try to help because they've identified the problem rather than having their head buried in the sand. And to keep on saying we're the safest city, well, if you live in certain parts of the city, that might be true, right? But if you're in a community where you've had 14 people shot in a matter of hours, it doesn't resonate. It's like, hearing Donald Trump, saying, everything is okay and, we're winning the war and we're looking and everything, gas is reasonable and all these crazy things. And you're like, well, wait a minute, I know he doesn't have to fill up the tank.
Right.
But so I guess, how do we get that turned around where the community understands that the power really isn't with our elected officials, it's with them, but we relinquish that power when we don't speak out, or when we don't support people, elected officials like yourself, who are challenging the status quo?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's a opportunity, more so now than ever, but I think there's an opportunity, and especially in the Black community. I think elections are won and lost, in my opinion, in the Black community. I don't know if elected officials know that. I don't know if the Black community knows that, but they have the ability to elect mayors and governors and city councilors, But when you choose to stay home or you choose not to get involved and engaged, well, someone's going to speak for you. Someone's going to vote for you. Some other neighborhood is going to vote, have a higher percentage for you. But when that happens, elected officials can ignore certain areas and neighborhoods.
And to that point, Councilor, you're right. So that the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if for instance, if a community is coming out and they're voting, you've got 60,000 people that vote in the community of West Roxbury, and in Roxbury you've got 2,000 people. The mayor can afford to ignore you because she's got enough to offset you with the votes that she gets. Because just the last election, because there was a council and the mayor pretty much ran on the polls once Josh Kraft dropped out. What percentage of voters in Boston voted in this last election? I think because it says
it was a percentage that was very low. I don't know if it was in the 20s or so.
It was around 20%.
Yeah, exactly. It was under 30. It was in the high 20s.
It was in the high 20s. Okay. Yeah. And that means 70% of eligible voters did not vote. And then there's voters. Then there's the residents that didn't even register to vote. So you have literally a handful of people that are deciding elections. Unhealthy in the city of Boston, the cradle of liberty, as they say. Yeah. But I do think there's an opportunity. The voice of the communities of color should be heard, should be respected in the city, in government, in politics, and it's not.
Right.
We all know it's not. But there's an opportunity going forward for the Black community to be engaged again. And let me just say one final thing. I know this might get some people upset. We had the opportunity on the Boston City Council to elect Brian Worrell City Council President, an extremely well qualified person, and we didn't take that opportunity, and that hurt the city of Boston. The City Council President appoints chairs of the different committee now with various chairs now because there's a different city council president that was supported by the mayor. You can just ignore issues and you don't have to have hearings. But I think Brian would have engaged residents through the chairs about public safety, about public education, about neighborhood services, about quality of life. I think he would have rocked the boat. But he was denied that opportunity because of traditional Boston politics.
And you're being kind because the person that's there now is not qualified, and that's why they didn't run for it. They were actually nominated and selected by the mayor to be the president of the council so that these issues would not be brought to folks' attention. I want to grab this call for you, Councilor. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the round two.
Good morning.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, hi.
We can hear you.
When I have a question that you did in the last hearing of the city council, you offered an order for a hearing to discuss expanding access to the skilled trade careers in the city of Boston, and I wanted to know how that functions. In other words, what is the out of that? Did it have to be voted on? Where were you going with that order?
Yeah, that's a great question. I filed that with Councilor Worrell, but it's an opportunity for us to have a discussion about trades, skilled trades, in how we're able to work with residents across the city, and including especially people of color. How are we able to get them into the building trades? How are we able to get them into skilled trades so that they have the education, training, opportunities to get a good paying job in a career? I don't like to use the word job. I like to use the word career. But if you have the skills necessary in this city, you can be successful. But we have to educate and provide the critical training that's needed. I do believe that's in the skilled trades. That's something I'm going to be working with Brian Worrell, and we have a lot of work to do in that field, but there's been progress made, but we have a lot of work ahead of us.
At one point in time, Madison was a flagship of a school that uplifted people through the trades and educated people in the trades, and now that school sits virtually empty, except for the O'Brien there.
Right, which it should be the norm, not the same.
Yes, can I ask? I was not finished with the question. The order that you made. Well, first of all, let me just say that the People's Academy made an attempt to go and speak with the principal at Madison Park. I'm so glad you mentioned that. And he never responded. Never.
Okay.
And is concerned if you, Councilor Flynn, could speak with the principal there and get a hearing of a meeting with the People's Academy concerning this issue that you've made the order about, and access to the skilled trades. They have access right there in shops that are perfectly able to function. And I think the issue is that they don't have people with cultural competence teaching the students.
Yeah.
I see that the People's Academy visited and worked with one of the several of the skilled vocational construction labs, and they found and noticed other labs where they were teaching the students minimal skills.
Okay. So I don't want to cut you because we've got the lines are loaded for the counselor. So I get your question. I think he does too. But I think that the significance of what I'm hearing from her as well is that she is asking you, and this is why I brought up early on that you represent District 2 in the areas that you represent, mainly downtown, that the people that are impacted by the People's Academy not being up and running are affected by the violence, the lack of education, and the counselors that are the at-large and the district councils that represent them are MIA, missing in action. And you come here on a regular basis trying to get help for the districts that you don't even represent. I mean, this is where, again, elections matter, right? And these people run unopposed, or they have the mayor's mandate, and that's all they follow. So to Ms. Harris's point, this isn't going to change until the community decides that and not just decides, but demands better from their elected officials. Like that shenanigans you spoke of a few minutes ago with the president of the council, that wasn't to better serve the people of the community. That was to silence anyone who was in opposition to what the mayor wanted to do.
Yeah, I do think that was the best vote I ever took on the city council, was voting for Brian Worrell for council president. Certainly he lost. The other most significant vote I took was voting to have a supplemental budget for the Boston Public Schools to rehire recently laid off teachers, paraprofessionals, bus monitors. Larry and Mr. Rhodes and Pastor Hobbs, most of those employees were women of color. The city council went on record voting not to support them.
Right.
Elections have consequences.
Right. So before we get to Siddiqui, I just wanted, because you touched on the schools. Thank you, Miss Harris, Miss King. I appreciate that. We've got to grab these other calls. I want to get your take on, the school superintendent just came out, right? We have a school that's just eroding, and the superintendent has been working remotely pretty much all of last year from Cape Cod. Do you think that's acceptable from the leadership? And if that had been any other employee of the city working remotely, a teacher, it's easier for them to work remotely from home to teach their students. You think that would have been acceptable?
Well, I know the superintendent of schools, according to news reports, she did seek federal
FLMA,
Family Medical Leave Assistance, or Act, I should say, and it was approved. I know her husband had some injuries, and she was providing care for her husband, and I know her husband. He's a wonderful guy, but since it was a FMLA related issue, I don't know all of the issues.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
I understand it, but I'm saying this smacks of the privilege that would not be, just like when the mayor was coming to work with her child all the time. No other employee in the city would be allowed to do these things. It's like, if someone else asked for the same privilege that the mayor was, and the superintendent, it would have been denied, because so you have to lead by example, and this is not a good way. I'm not saying she shouldn't take care of her husband, but if that means that she needs to step down and have somebody else run the place, because the schools need someone there that's invested every single day. And if you have an issue, any rest of us have to take time off to deal with that. So I totally disagree with the way that was handled and allowed, and said, yes, she did the right thing, fill out the proper paperwork. But I think that she should have removed herself from that and allowed someone to run the day-to-day operations of the schools, especially when we're shutting down schools, we're laying off teachers.
Right.
It needs a full-time superintendent, not a part-time.
We have major challenges in the Boston public school system. Our academic results are
abysmal.
Yeah, that they are, and residents know it. We can't keep saying things are going well in the public school system.
The superintendent is the highest salaried person in the city, not overtime and details, but the highest salary is a superintendent.
Even more than the mayor.
Absolutely. What are we getting for that? So, Siddiqui, good morning. Welcome to the roundtable. Sorry, thank you for holding.
Yeah, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning, Siddiqui.
Is it a good morning? But good.
Now, look, I heard the councilor talking about the fact that, in terms of the black community, that we have, from a political perspective, we have opportunities. Let me just say that, well, first of all, I respect a lot of positions that Council Clinton takes. But the problem that we have here is not about of course, politics is politics, but the real issue at hand here is the fact that Mayor Wu has no respect for the black community. Mm-hmm. Look at White Stadium, the Center Lane perspective,
good point.
B3, and what happens is that she's not listening. Let me just say on what's happening around the issue. We got Nubian Square. You know how we fought for Nubian Square, and we got Nubian Station, and so for the last several years, we've been fighting. The community wants the Nubian Library name. And what has happened is that we've done petitions, community meetings, the whole thing. And the mayor has done nothing, but what she has done is that she stepped forward now. And she doesn't care about Sarah Ann Shaw, but she's using Sarah Ann Shaw to weaponize against the Nubian name. In fact, today at 10 o'clock at the library, we're doing a community dedication of the library, calling it the Nubian Library, because you know that what happened was that through manipulation of the mayor, and let me just say this, that Sarah Ann Shaw is both beloved, the late Sarah Ann Shaw. In fact, she supported the Nubian name. She sat me down some years ago to advise me on how to approach the then Friends of Dudley Library about convincing them to support the Nubian name. And so it's been like a really sensitive situation for us, because we don't want to give first of all, there's no split in the community, but we don't want to make it appear like we're anti-Sarah Ann Shaw. What we're saying is that the community wants the Nubian Library name, and that, the bottom line is that we talked about having a wall of honor there, and Sarah Ann's name would be on it, Chuck Turner's, and, folks of that nature. And one young lady said they could even name a room after Sarah Ann, but not the whole facility.
Right. So, Siddiqui,
doesn't care.
Right. Let me just, and I'll let Council answer your questions as well. But I think, something you just said about the mayor not having any respect for the black community, I think it's a little deeper than that, because really the question should ask, does the black community have enough respect for themselves to allow themselves to continue to be disrespected? That to me is a bigger question than what the mayor thinks about us, because that's known. It is, what do we do with that information that we have? So, Councilor, you want to?
Yeah, let me respond to a couple points Siddiqui made. First point he made was on White Stadium, and I agree there was practically no input, community engagement, but the voices of the residents in and around Franklin Park weren't the city will say they were heard. I don't believe that, but I think we all agree they weren't respected. Mm-hmm. The residents weren't respected. I came out against. I think I was probably the first elected official to come out against White Stadium. I didn't like the plan. I don't like when you privatize public space. I don't like that at all. Giving it away for a song, practically. The second point Siddiqui made is the Blue Hill Avenue bus lane. And I support Councilor Culpepper, another outstanding city councilor. But they have a plan basically to really a transportation plan to provide critical transportation access that's been denied for so long. And it was almost shot down immediately by city officials as if this plan wasn't well thought out. It's insignificant. We don't need it. We want to extend the MBTA system into Rosendale. But why would you shut down the voices of two prominent elected officials in the black community, Councilor Rell, Reverend Culpepper? They speak, in my opinion, they speak for the residents that they elected them. Their voices should have been heard, should have been respected, and I do support both of those gentlemen in their transportation plan. But I thought it was disrespectful to automatically dismiss this plan that they came up with as if it's not important, it's irrelevant, or it's actually fantasy land. I don't agree with that.
Well, but I mean, it goes to what Sadiq is saying. If she doesn't respect the people in that community that looks like them, do you think that she's going to respect the people that represent them? They look no different than the people that are from their community. So they're intertwined, they're connected together. But also, Sadiq, I'm going to grab this other call in a second. Isn't it a city ordinance where, back to the White Stadium for a second, is that's public now, commingled private, but you can't serve alcohol on any community, where children, right? So how is that being allowed to happen where kids are gathering?
Larry, I came up with a proposal, and I wanted the city council to go on record that you can't serve alcohol on city property, especially on property of the Boston Public School system. And I outlined why I believe that, and my colleagues voted against it. Most of my colleagues, it wasn't passed, but we have certain rules in the city for certain people.
Hello.
But if you have power and you have
access
and you have the ability to get things done, your voice is heard. But if you don't have access, you don't have political influence, and you're not engaged in the system, you kind of pushed to the side and almost treated as if you're irrelevant or you're a nuisance.
Yeah.
Stop bothering me with that nonsense.
Right.
We have we have to privatize this park here. These are prominent people
my
in the city.
need to make money.
Yeah. So one thing I dislike about the process is the impact it will have on our public school children. We do need a beautiful White Stadium. It should be built with city money, and it should be used for kids from the Boston Public Schools and the impacted neighborhood city residents. It should not be privatized for a private organization to make money and to be serving alcohol in such a facility. That's what I believe.
Yeah. Now, Siddiqui, anything before we got this other call?
Yeah, let me just very quickly just say that, number one, we're encouraging folks to come down to the Nubian Library at 10 o'clock this morning when we make it very clear that that's the name that we're going to be calling it. And the other piece, let me close with this, is that if Mayor Wu were white, we would be saying she's racist. So I just want to put that out there in terms of her policy and the way she disrespects the black community.
No, thank you, sir. Appreciate you. 10 o'clock this morning at the Nubian Square Library. Come out and support the cause there with Siddiqui and others. Thank you, Siddiqui. Appreciate you as always.
Thank you, Siddiqui.
Have a good day. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the roundtable.
Good morning. I have two questions for the councilor.
Okay.
No, just hear me out. I'm just going to do a little outline. When the weather is warm or hot, as a registered voter, I'm getting sick and tired of having these people who ride on these electric scooters and these electric bikes on the sidewalk. And again, I'm being logical here. Logically speaking, they should be rolled on the streets. The area that I live in, and that little so-called bike lane, they don't use it. So my question is to you, Councilor, how come the city, logically speaking, doesn't engage the state in saying that these vehicles, which is unmotorized vehicles, supposed to be licensed? In other words, the bikers and the scooters would have a driver's license. Why is it that I gotta be so fearful of my own life to watch my own back to make sure that I don't get hit by either someone on the scooter or an e-bike, even though they're electrical vehicles and they're supposed to be made for the road,
so
not on a sidewalk?
I got that part. What's your next question?
My next question is, how come these officials, literally speaking, when I approach them and ask them simple questions, and again, I'm West the border, so I'm one of their bosses, I get lied to, I get insulted, and I always get cursed at by one of these city councilors for asking questions that I care about to help benefit my community.
So, okay, I'll let you answer it in whichever order you use.
Yeah, let me answer the first one. The electric scooters and the e-bikes, and I agree with you. I actually filed an ordinance in the city of Boston for them to be regulated, and that they would have to go through a process of registering their motorbike, e-bike with the proper authorities, and have a license, or at least have a little bit of an identification on the vehicle, not the vehicle, on the bike, to identify who they are. That didn't go anywhere. But what did happen is, I've had conversations with state officials, but Governor Maura Healey's team saw what I proposed. They knew it was going to just not go anywhere in the city council, but they basically took my proposal, which I'm glad they did, and they're trying to put some state regulations in place, because of this isn't just a Boston problem. This is a problem throughout many cities across Massachusetts.
Before you answer the second question, here's a problem that I see. I'm just putting my law enforcement hat on for a second. Is that, how do you enforce these things, right? Because it's not just, it's also those delivery mopeds, right? People talk about those, right? But even when these gets passed, and the perfect example of that was the hands-free law, right?
Yeah.
And I see more people texting and driving, and the police are watching this and nothing happens. So you can pass it, but if there's no enforcement mechanism to deal with this, because it's ballooned out of control, how do you enforce something of this magnitude?
Right. I think that's the critical piece, is the traffic enforcement. Really, as you probably know, it's really not a top priority for the police department, but it is for the residents. Residents want to see a safe street, and residents want to see safe sidewalks. This gentleman was just talking about walking on the sidewalk. Sometimes your sidewalks aren't safe to walk on.
Exactly.
I saw a guy going down Boylston Street on a moped on a sidewalk, the opposite, the kind of the opposite way. He was on his moped. He was on a cell phone, and he was holding a sandwich. And he was going the opposite way. People are jumping out of the way like it's the movies. But we have to. Boston Police has a responsibility to aggressively, or fairly, I should say, enforce traffic laws in the city of Boston.
But the policy is like for vehicles, for if a car is running through a red light or whatever, and if it's just an enforcement, the policy is to pursue that vehicle. So, and people know that. They know that you know, all you have to do is accelerate, and the police are going to back off.
Right.
So it's open season on that, and you can pass whatever ordinance you want, but if it's not going to be enforced, it's a toothless tiger.
Yeah, and I see residents all the time, including my parents, elderly people. They're crossing and they're in the crosswalk. They're walking. The elderly people. There's persons with disabilities. There's parents taking their little kids to school. They're in the crosswalk. In cars, in bicycles, and e-bikes and mopeds will go right by them as if they're insignificant, that their time is more valuable. We have to do an entirely different job on traffic enforcement. We need a dedicated system in on Boston Police where we focus specifically as well on traffic enforcement, and we're not doing that.
Well, and then I'll let you answer. He'll answer your second question. I think just a suggestion, right? Because it doesn't have to be. They don't have to engage with people, but we have the meter maids, right? The parking enforcement. They don't have to just like they go by and they see a car, it has an expired inspection sticker. They can write a violation for that, right? So if we require these vehicles to have an identification, that can be, and then we can mail them the citation for whatever reckless behavior that they're doing, right? So that's also, the city loves to put their hand in people's pocket. How about doing it fairly with people who are actually doing something wrong? Because owning a home is not a crime, but you're punished taxes wise, right? Why not get the money out of some of these people's pockets who are actually causing harm and fear in the city, right? So if you got one of those and you're required to put a plate on the back of it, it's easy enough for the meter maids to write that down, or anyone, and then you send them the citation. Now, you don't have to chase them, but then they get the message.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I agree with that. It's a public safety issue, and it's a major problem in Boston, and I would support that, and maybe that's something we need to focus on.
Yeah, because they can enforce. Those are extra people out in the street, and we even utilizing the police cadets.
Right.
A lot of times they're not doing anything really any significance at the front desk there, right, or running errands, right. That's more of a public safety issue for them to just jot down these things, and people see them out there. That's visibility as well. And the second question was a disrespect from public officials. So I'll let you go ahead and try to handle that one.
Yeah, it's important for elected officials and to listen to residents, to respect residents, especially when residents are upset and residents disagree or have a major issue of a quality of life issue, a neighborhood services issue. When that person is calling up a city councilor or the mayor's office, for that person to pick up the phone and call your elected official, it's probably the most important phone call they're going to make in months. Maybe it's trying to help their kid get into a drug treatment program. Maybe it's to help their kid with an issue in the Boston public school system. Maybe it's to address pedestrian safety in Boston. But you can't just dismiss that complaint as irrelevant or a nuisance. You have to. An important part of being an elected official is listening. And if it takes 15 minutes to listen to a conversation, listen to someone first, explain the problem, well, an elected official should take the 15 minutes to listen to the person and then respond.
Well, Councilor, to that point, you were there and present. They just had a heated, public hearing at the city council on the budget recently, in which people came down there to voice their concerns and ended up getting arrested. I know they were asked to leave and they were being disruptive, but it's like they were being dismissive of people are at the point where they just can't take it anymore.
Right.
And I don't condone people going down there and being violent, but I think also our elected officials need to understand is that people feel like that's their last resort. Like you said, like Dick said, when he's calling, he's trying to have a conversation with them. They're disrespectful and dismissive of him. But then when you come down, I know where to find you. Right? I come down there and you are getting the same treatment.
Yeah, Larry, know what the way they go about trying to address this is elected officials now want to have more Zoom meetings. So they don't want to have the meetings in person because they don't want the people coming down there before the meeting. Hey, Ed, you got 20 minutes? You got 10 minutes? Or after the meeting. The elected officials don't want anyone talking to them. Yeah. So when you're on your little box at your house in the Zoom meeting,
you can mute the button.
You can mute everything, and people aren't engaged with this way of communicating. But in-person meetings should be the norm, and it is critical for us to get back to listening and respecting to Boston residents, because we're really not doing that in the city of Boston, and we have to show residents that we care about them and we respect them.
All right, caller. Thank you as always. I appreciate you, and thank you for always, like I said, bringing some very informative questions to our guests, but to the broadcast. We appreciate you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the roundtable.
Yes, good morning, everyone. T. Michael Thomas from the People's Academy. How you guys doing?
A great
Good
show.
morning,
We
yeah.
will be listening.
Good morning, T. Michael.
Three yes or no questions for you.
Rapid fire. Okay.
Yes, sir. The first question: is there one downside to the People's Academy that you could think of?
Not to the People's Academy. I do think they don't enjoy the political support at City Hall. That is the one downfall, not against the Academy, but against how you can be successful, that you don't have the political support at the mayor's office, which is very frustrating.
The second question: do you think the People's Academy brings value to the city of Boston?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I know. I support the People's Academy. I know my good friend Frank Baker did, and Mayor Walsh did, and Senator Collins did, and yes, it brings tremendous value to the residents of Boston.
My last question to you is: are you willing to work on it? I know you can't promise, but are you willing to help us to get to the council chambers to bring a few things forward on the need and the value and the benefits that the People's Academy brings to the city?
Yes, I will. T. Michael, know what I'll do before the end of August. We meet, as you know, not every Wednesday, but maybe every other Wednesday in the summertime. At 12 o'clock, I will host a listening session before that. That's the best time to get city councilors, is before the start of the meeting. So I would invite you to come to talk to us at 11 o'clock on a Wednesday. I'll have coffee for everybody, and I'll invite my colleagues, and it will be an opportunity for you to pretty much talk to as many city councilors at the same time. So I will do that sometime on a Wednesday in August, if that works for you.
Absolutely.
All right.
But you might have to do a little bit of outreach to encourage city councilors to actually show up to the
come to work.
Yeah, come to work. At 11 o'clock, they might have to get here a little earlier.
Check their Cape Cod. Check the ferry.
Yeah.
Exact reservations.
Put it this way: once they hear the name T. Michael Thomas, everyone all in a sudden will catch some type of a disease or sickness that they can't show up for work. But it's all good.
Thank you, T.
But I will say this much: great show, and I will be listening.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, T. Michael.
Good morning, caller. Welcome to the roundtable at the Flynn Corner.
Hey, Larry, how you doing?
Hey, good. We got to get you in here. Good morning, sir.
How you doing?
You have a question or comment for the council?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. One question, and I want a straight answer.
Mm-hmm.
What are all the city councilors doing with the housing crisis in this city? Nobody's talking about that, because everybody's leaving Boston, and people can't afford to stay here. What are your take on how to keep people here?
Yeah, I think it's a major problem.
And before you answer, also, I just wanted to add to that, because what are they doing about workforce, right? Because it's not just city employees who are mandated to live in the city of Boston. How is that being looked at in conjunction with what Cliff just asked? I wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a question I hear often. I think workforce housing is what we need. We don't need necessarily the luxury housing that's constantly being built, but we need workforce housing for working people that want to continue to live in Boston or come to Boston. They may not necessarily make a huge salary, but they want to buy something. They want to buy a small affordable housing house or condo, but we need to make it easier for residents to do that through first time home buyer programs, through mortgage assistance programs, but also through the ensuring set aside affordable units that are built, especially major development projects, making sure that we have affordable housing inside those projects, inside those developments, including workforce housing. But I do think we need more workforce housing. We need to support residents living in public housing as well. The city of Boston also, the Boston Housing Authority, I should say, administers the Section 8 program. But we need to work with residents and businesses. Businesses right now in financial people are not investing their money in Boston.
But they also are paying less in taxes, because I would say to Cliff's point, right, but what also is contributing to that as well is that if you're a renter, and I'm for full disclosure, I own properties in the city of Boston. That cost gets passed on to the tenant, right? So the city thinks that somehow working people and homeowners have more money than the city's multi-billion-dollar budget. So, and when people are trying to address it, there's nothing that I'm seeing being done to address lowering property taxes, because that also contributes to the high cost, because the average price for a home in Boston is $1 million.
It's $1 million, yeah.
So that means that home is being assessed at a tax rate of $1 million, right? So what the city did, and I think unfairly, was they assessed properties at what they thought they were worth, not what someone might have paid for it. A senior or someone who's retired on a fixed income that bought the house for $100,000 and now it's assessed at $1 million. They're paying more in taxes than they paid for their mortgage. So I don't see the city giving any relief, because that would help bring down the cost as well. If the homeowner is paying less than property taxes, maybe they can, pass a little bit of that down to the tenant.
Yeah, I know State Senator Nick Collins in the State Senate just passed.
And that's why Wu's got a candidate against him.
Yeah, they passed common sense property tax relief especially for seniors in Boston. And, I just want to acknowledge Senator Collins' leadership on so many issues supporting the residents of Boston, but been a tremendous leader on not just property tax relief, but also quality of life and neighborhood services for the residents of Boston as well.
Yeah, because I see, there's a big push for the mayor, because, the World Cup was successful with people drinking late hours, and that seems to be a priority to bring more people in, to have more people out in the wee hours of the morning. I always tell people nothing good happens after midnight, right? I think, the 2 o'clock is long enough for people to be on the road drinking, and we need to add to that. But that really doesn't help any relief for the high cost of being a homeowner in the city of Boston. And there's nothing on the horizon from this administration to deal with that. And even the council, I don't know what they've taken up other than folks like yourself that even discuss that. Because what's the budget this year, council? I know you guys just passed a budget for the city of Boston.
We had a budget that really focused on the neighborhood services that were critical, but the biggest problem I had, we had about $100 million deficit, and there were about $50 million cuts at the Boston public school system, and another $50 million cuts. But on the budget, what bothered me the most was the layoffs of teachers and paraprofessionals and bus monitors. I know people think I'm a broken record, but we balanced the budget on their backs.
Well, the superintendent got a pay raise last year.
Yeah.
$80,000 pay raise. That's a salary of a starting teacher. I mean, it would help save someone, right?
Right. And I'm still focused on this, is trying for the city council to encourage the mayor to rehire those people that were laid off, because that shows us where our priorities are. And Larry, you've been around a long time. It's probably the biggest mass layoff of city employees since Prop 2.5.
And honestly, too, to that point, I've gotten calls from a lot of them. A lot of those are teachers of color, because last hired, first fired, right?
They are. I was in Roxbury the last couple of days. I was at the Roxbury Unity Parade and talking to residents. They all came up to me and they said, "Hey, Ed, I'm a bus monitor. I'm a paraprofessional. And it was a woman of color mostly, and she was making $40,000 a year.
Right. How many deputy superintendents were cut in this budget? Because the administrative part, none.
Yeah, right. They claim that they are looking at the top officials, not the top officials, high paying ministers and BPS. They're looking at them.
But
I don't
code for nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't like when you balance the budget on the backs of regular people, employees that are doing they're doing everything we're asking them to do. Mm-hmm. They're working 40 hours a week. They're paying their bills. They're paying their taxes. Mm-hmm. They're not making much money. And who do we lay off? We lay off that worker.
Right.
And that worker is probably is most likely working a second, third job to pay their bills.
I was going to say, you just said it, Councilor, is that's the person that's more like, other than the superintendent who got an $80,000 pay raise. I guess that was to help with the house on the Cape, who is already, like I said, the highest paid salary, so she can afford a little less, right? These people who are working, as you said, paycheck to paycheck, most city workers, unlike police and fire, a lot of times they have access to overtime and details. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times it's forced, but I'm saying is that they do have access to. Most city employees don't have overtime other than some of the public works if there's something going on. So to lose a job, a teacher, to lose
it's devastating. It's devastating, and Larry, you are right. It's also a racial justice issue. And I know people don't want to hear that, but it is a racial justice issue when I would say 90% of the people laid off at Boston Public School System are people of color.
Yeah, and
women.
And Councilor, a lot of these folks have 15 plus years. These are not people who have 1 or 2 years in the system. These are people who are who thought they would finish out their career, and now they're being sacrificial lambs.
Right. It's unfair. And I'm not giving up on them. I know I think we have a moral responsibility to go to bat for them. Larry, know what the other part of it is?
Hold that, because we got about 2 minutes. I want to grab this call because every time you come, the lines light up. So caller, good morning. Cliff, hold on. We're going to squeeze this call in. Good morning, caller.
It's Pam. I don't know if she wants to say anything. She doesn't want to listen.
Oh, okay. Okay. She's okay.
The other part of that is it impacts students with disabilities, and these paraprofessionals were in classrooms helping the teacher with students with disabilities. Larry, they were taking the kids, they had to help them go to the bathroom and wash their hands, and then they would come back to the classroom and help organize with the teacher.
I've spoken to some of these people, Councilor, and some of them were terminated, and they were fabricated things because they needed to get rid of them. And instead of being honest with them, they make up things, and now they can't go get a job because they've got this black mark in their folder. I mean, it's just crazy, Councilor. Every time we come, like I said, we appreciate you coming in. This is why I'm glad this is kind of a regular segment. You see that. If other councilors, if they came to programs such as this and listened to the people, they'd understand where they are, right? Meet the people where they are and listening, not running from them as if they're the problem, because they're saying, hey, you ran on addressing my problems. Now you're telling me I'm the problem for bringing it to you. Councilor, any final words from you, sir?
No, I want to say, Larry, thank you to you and Mr. Rhodes and Pastor Hobbs, to MAMLEO, the Massachusetts Association Minority Law Enforcement Officers. I also want to recognize Pastor Hobbs. I've done some work with him, but I respect him in the work he's done on supporting returning citizens. But Pastor, we have a lot of work to do also on Corey reform. I know Governor Patrick did some work and good work on Corey reform. I think we need to readdress Corey reform. And people have made mistakes, and I think they serve their time, but they do deserve an opportunity to live a healthy and happy life. And want to acknowledge Pastor Hobbs.
Thank you. We got to hold you there.
Yep.
Mr. Rhodes, you sitting in that chair?
The Rhodes Scholar.
I am, but I'm going to have to say this. Be blessed.
All right. You're quiet today.
This is for the dreamers. They say I am a dreamer, 'cause I still believe that anything is possible as long as you work hard. Hustle real hard. hustle real hard, hustle, hustle. So if I never see ya, never get the chance to meet ya. No, I came up from the bottom, always rooting for the underdog.
I wrote 300 songs in 1 year, Boogie will tell you I'm on it. I got unreleased songs for days, they don't want it. Eat any MC in the game, it ain't a challenge. If your music reflects who you are, then you's a coward. I can see through the lies, you ain't living what you spitting. If your money's so long, why your dog's in prison? Why your baby mom's stripping, why your mom's still living in that same broken home that you used to sell piffin'? You ain't gotta lie to me to sell me a track. You ain't gotta rock fake jewels or walk around strap. I respect artists getting money, but love them for spitting crack. And the fact that one track can move a family out the trap. It's a dream for us lost souls brought up in the mix. I'm motivated by the artists coming out in my midst. And the artists that paved the way when I didn't exist. Music's a skyscraper, I'm just trying to add a couple bricks.
This is for the dreamers. They say I am a dreamer. Cause I still believe that anything is possible as long as you work hard. Hustle real hard, hustle real hard. Hustle real hard, hustle. So if I never see ya, never get the chance to meet ya. No, I came up from the bottom, always rooting for the underdog.